Hi, Charli.
Hi, Jack.
Great to see you.
You too.
So I was thinking, last time you and I spoke, Wuthering Heights just gone #1 in the UK. And I said to you at the end of that interview, Charli, you've got a show at Reading and Leeds later on this year, but we have no new music. Have you started anything yet? And you said, thanks for reminding me, no, I haven't started anything yet. Was that the truth or was that a lie?
Yeah, it was a lie. Yeah, yeah, I'd finished the record pretty much. So I was just lying to your face, basically.
It's okay. It's fine. Everyone does it.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah. I knew when I sort of said yes to Reading and Leeds, I knew it was going to be about this next album.
When did this album get made then? Because I think in everyone else's heads, it's just Brat, 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 Brat. But behind the scenes, obviously, it's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's always the way, no matter sort of what album cycle I'm on. I mean, when you make a record, you kind of live with it for so long before it comes out. And that was definitely the case with Brat, and it's been the case with other albums that I've made, to the point that when it comes out, you're kind of already, or at least I am, thinking about the next thing. It's just sort of how I am.
You're one step ahead.
It's more just I'm excited to make something else, and I'm feeling a little bit like I've lived in that creative world already for quite a long time, just because, you know, you start it so far ahead and you're thinking about like the visualization of the album and all of these little details that really sink you into that world for so long that actually by the time it comes out, you've already lived with it for a really long time. And I think for me, I'm always kind of ready to know like what I want to do creatively next. So with this album, with Music, Fashion, Film, I think I kind of loosely started it in the summer of 2025 in a very kind of chill way. But really, I would say October 2025 and a little bit of December and January 2026, mostly in Paris, was kind of like the time where I really kind of got into the record. And I won't lie, I wasn't expecting to. You know, I think after Wuthering Heights, which we also kind of finished in October. Wow. I was sort of like, okay, I don't know if I'll have anything else left in the tank. And I was really ready to kind of take a creative pause. And that was what was really kind of my intuition was telling me at that point in time. But then out of the blue, I had this stroke of inspiration or whatever. And I always feel like when you get one of those, you kind of have to honor it, because you never know how long it might last for or whether you'll ever get one again. Yeah. So for me, my personal rule is that whenever that happens, I have to just sort of follow it and see where that leads me. And it led me here.
I watched The Moment, and I feel like The Moment has a very similar connection to this album, having now listened to it. Is that fair to say? Do you kind of feel like they come hand in hand? The Moment being the film that you obviously released.
I personally don't see the connection, but I'm more than happy for people to make that connection, because I think inherently like all of my work is connected. But no, for me, I think The Moment, if I had to boil it down into a couple of sentences, is sort of about what happens when your creative output gets reinterpreted so many times that it then actually becomes something quite far away from your original intention, and how you kind of deal with that as the creator of it, how you figure out whether you're even a part of that work anymore because it's been reinterpreted so much by an audience over and over and over again. That's sort of what The Moment is about. Whereas for me, this album, it's kind of about process and my love for making things, the joy that comes with that, and sometimes the difficulty that comes with that. And really, it's kind of about how lucky and inspired I am to be making things with the people I love so dearly. It's kind of like a celebration of that. For me, it's a very positive album for the most part, even though there are some songs on it that are a bit more melancholic, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that melancholic, perhaps sometimes slight numbness that you feel on the record is definitely something I want to talk about. But maybe let's start with the cover first off,
Sure.
because getting Mark Jacobs, John Cale, and Martin Scorsese all into one room together to shoot the album cover was probably an amazing idea to have, but actually getting that done in practice, I guess from the outside might seem like a difficult thing to do. Was it as hard as it seemed?
I will say it was an absolute nightmare. Yeah, it was like really down to the wire.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when you're kind of, printing a vinyl, you have to get it ready months in advance. So there really is like boring logistics. There really is like a cut-off date where you have to have things done if you want the vinyl to come out on the day that the album is being released.
Makes sense.
And so we were really down to like the day before that deadline. And, they're busy guys. It's like, we were like, oh my God, if one of them is like, oh, actually, sorry, like, can't make it today. Can you do tomorrow? Even that slight change would have been sort of quite
devastating
for us. But like, they all showed up. And honestly, it was a really emotional moment, actually. My best friend, Aidan Zamiri, was shooting the photograph, and I don't know, the three of them arrived, and they all separately mean so much to me. They are my music fashion film for a number of reasons. There are obviously a multitude of different versions of that too. But for me, for this record, they made the most sense. And so having them all there and, working with them in that capacity, it just felt, I don't know, it was one of those moments where I was like, this is kind of a once in a lifetime moment. This is probably never going to happen again. And it was really sweet and overwhelming, actually.
And had they all met before?
No, they hadn't.
Okay.
They hadn't. Mark and Marty, I think, had met. Mm-hmm. And John and Marty had some mutual friends in common that they were kind of talking about. It was very cute. It was cool. Sort of watching everybody get to know each other. Yeah. And then obviously I was sort of freaking out, and we actually shot the whole thing in like 15 minutes. So we were really like, we got to get the shot. Uh-huh. So I'm kind of doing this thing where I'm like, yeah, like pop the shoulder, like love it. And I'm like, why am I doing this? But it's just like how I normally am on a shoot. So I'm like going down that road, and yeah, it was really cool. It was a great
So
day.
did Scorsese pop the shoulder, or?
That was more a note for John.
Oh, it's for John, right, yeah, sure.
And he did, and it looks fabulous.
So we see the front cover and we're all thinking, oh my God, what is this going to be? How's it going to sound? And then we hear rock music. Why lead with rock music? Why was that the right song to go with?
Well, I spoke with Alex and Finn, A.G. Cook and Finn Keane, who I made this whole album with. And we were kind of back and forth on, what should it be? What should it be? And I think we landed on this song because we had the most fun making this song when we were in Paris together. And the feelings that we collectively felt whilst making this song kind of sum up the whole sort of emotion of the album. It really is about that joy of getting to have fun making things with your friends. Like, that is such a privilege and an honor. And we really felt that when we were making it. And obviously I know, like, there are some people who really think I'm just constantly like living in an eye roll and being ironic all the time. And I'm more than happy for people to feel that way. But actually, like, this song, it is like fun and funny, and there are funny elements about it. But I think when we were making it, we were feeling really like we were really like connecting with each other. And actually the silliness in the song doesn't necessarily mean that the song is not serious or real. I think that's like a kind of constant issue I have with music generally in this day and age, or people's interpretation of music, I should say. If anything is too fun, it's sort of deemed as like not important. And actually, I think joy is a really important element of making music that is sometimes kind of hard to capture. And I think for us in that moment, we felt that we had like captured that for ourselves. So I think that was why it felt like a kind of important message for the record.
Yeah, God, I couldn't agree more. I feel like fun is drained from a lot of what we're doing. Everything's becoming so watertight. And that was a really, really important part of the record that I loved so much about listening to it. And I think actually when people listened to Brat, they got that as well. That was kind of the overwhelming feeling with Brat, amongst other things, of course, but people just went and had a good time and had fun to the music. You garnered the biggest audience you've ever done in your career so far because of that album. But coming back to the point that we were talking about earlier about some of these records feeling a little kind of melancholic and numb, like a Spring Summer 26, for example, or Card Declined, or I'm Afraid. Was there a part of you that didn't necessarily feel fully fulfilled after Brat at all? Is that a reflection of that?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever feel fully fulfilled. That's sort of the human existence, really, I think, at least for me. I don't know. No, I mean, I feel unbelievably proud of Brat and, you know, the whole experience of that. But I think, you know, in ways it also sort of informed my next feelings, you know, the things I would think about in hindsight. And, you know, I think a lot about audience, and I think a lot about perception of artistry and how I feel about that. And that's always something that I've sort of spoken about and talked around in my work. And I think this is just me doing that after an album that was, you know, the most successful album I've ever had. So I think now there are people who maybe are kind of just learning that that's like a big part of my process. And that's exciting for me.
There are a lot of records on the album that I love and we're going to talk about, but I just always found myself going back to Spring Summer 26, and I felt like that was a record that it's such a clever track. I think you've really executed that one so well, but it feels quite entangled in different feelings and different emotions. Yeah. And I think there's points where I'm not entirely sure how you feel on it. I've got you here in front of me. I'd love to know what your feelings and sentiments were on Spring Summer 26.
Yeah, it was a really tricky song to write. I generally don't go back and rework songs. That's not really a part of my process, but we actually did do that a few times with Spring Summer 26. I think the thing that's funny about that song is I think people think it is me commenting on the state of the world in like a social and political way. And I suppose there are sort of elements of that, but actually for me, what it's more about is the fact that I feel like we used to be in a world where you could use music or fashion or film or literature to escape and to get some solace from the sort of very heightened noise and discourse that was going on in the world. And I think now we're in this kind of place where obviously opinion is such a currency on the internet that even when you're just listening to your favorite music, there's always going to be someone who's telling you like you're wrong or
you can't
you're
please
stupid
everyone.
Or no, it's not even about me making the music. It's more about the audience. Even it's like it feels that everybody is constantly, you know, being told actually you're wrong. and you're not being the most moralistic version of yourself. You don't have any tastes. You don't know what's right. Like, why do you enjoy that? You're an idiot. It just feels very negative and difficult to be online. And actually, I did this thing a few months ago with my fans where I was having these one-on-one conversations with like a group of, I think it was like 20 fans. And just they got to kind of like ask me stuff, and I would ask them stuff about like their process and my process. And one of the things that kept coming up over and over and again was that a lot of these kids were like, I really want to try and make something. I want to try and make a song. I want to try and make a short film. I want to try and write this essay that's been in my mind. But I'm scared to do it because I'm scared that I'm going to be laughed at. I'm scared that I'm going to get it wrong. And I think there is just this constant feeling of being scared to get something wrong. And it feels really like doomed, to be honest. It's like, and I think we used to be in this time where those things could save you and make you feel okay and safe. And now actually, like, sometimes engaging in those things can actually end up making you feel really humiliated or like you've done something terrible. And I think that's kind of what the song is about. Sorry, that was so long, but it's hard
so interesting to hear you say this. I've always thought that imperfection has actually creates perfection. I'm not necessarily talking about imperfection makes the perfect song. It's more in the eyes of someone else, right? Imperfection can make someone's favorite song, just because of the way it sounds.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I think like making mistakes is where you actually find something really unique across the board in whatever you're doing. It's like that's where you find this thing that can't be replicated because you actually like dare to try and you get it wrong. But I think because of how toxic it can get, people are afraid to get it wrong.
Dare to try. Is that a line on one of the songs? Dare to try, I think.
Is it?
Something like that.
You know better than me. I don't know.
It's
I don't think it is,
me.
but maybe it's close.
I think there's something close in there. But on that topic, to be honest, I think this is some of your best lyrical work.
Thank you.
It's so brilliant. I want to go to on camera. I want to go to camera, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm always craving an experience that feels dangerous. There'll be some others that we'll talk about later that I thought were fantastic. But that to me screamed the kind of Charli XCX manifesto in a way. It's just really always how you've been. Is it sort of running from something or is it running towards something?
I think it's both. It's both. I think I have a sort of fear of sitting still in a way and not doing anything. Like that's like a big issue for me, you know? And also, you know, I've been making music since I was 14 now. So that's like, what, a long time, over 15 years, more than that, right? Yeah.
I mean,
you know? So it's like, not that I'm bored of it, because that's not true. I still love making music, but I have a slightly different relationship to it now than I did in the kind of early days. And so I do crave these different experiences that can make me feel this rush of adrenaline. And the song that you're talking about, Camera, it's like that is about me kind of becoming more interested in film and feeling very inspired by that creative outlet, being on camera in that kind of a way. And I sort of say in the song, like, I don't feel embarrassed even if I suck, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's true. Like, I'm just going towards things that reward me creatively. And maybe that's sort of like a terrible idea for my career, but it's like, that's always what I've done. And sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't worked. And I've been kind of at peace with both of those versions, but I think it's always, my drive is always to feel some kind of high or rush through the work that I make.
I mean, if you're not feeling satisfied, then what's the point in all this in the first place, right?
Exactly.
I mean, literally, to quote your letterboxd review of Marty Supreme, what is life without internal struggle and dream?
Yeah, exactly. That film like really spoke to me.
I loved your review of it.
Thanks.
Raw.
I was like, this is me. Like,
I felt really close to it as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it's quite divisive in that way. I think some people are like, I don't get it. No one's like that. And then the people who are like that, we're like, I see you. Like, that's me.
I agree.
You know?
I thought Timothy played it so well, in
Incredible.
fact, that I almost believed that it was him, that really was who he was, and that's how he grew up. It was an incredible performance, wasn't it?
Really great.
Yeah. Can we talk about I'm Afraid?
Yeah, of course.
That thing is so grungy and like rocky feeling, and actually it's when you're performing it live as well, the 12-string guitar, I'm told, dropped down 2 octaves and just feeling really, really cool. You must be really proud of that record. That's a real standout for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I am proud of that song. It's definitely kind of like a outlier on the album. I think there aren't other songs that really sound like that. And I have to say, like, I was very inspired by Young Lean for that song. He has this side project which is like more kind of like rocky, called Lean Doer. And we were in the studio in Paris, and I was like, I kind of want to like do like a Jonathan type thing for this. And I told him about it. I was like, I've totally ripped you off on a song. He was like, amazing. I haven't sent it to him yet, but yeah, it's very inspired by like his palette. Like he's always been a big inspiration to me. I love how he writes songs, and I love his fearlessness. And yeah, so I was kind of touching on that for this.
And lyrically,
song.
The song kind of catches you. I guess, are you worrying about how life's decisions impact you and your career? And
yeah, it's sort of, yes, I am. It's kind of like the life cycle, I suppose. It's sort of talking about like the cycle of being an avoidant person, I suppose, and how that can affect the people around me, where that has possibly come from, how it can make me like a very selfish person. It's sort of just like an honest like lament about all of those things.
Is it possible to have a sort of, in quotation, a normal life, I guess, as a doing what you do in a way, or does it kind of demand too much to
I don't know. Like, I think I really do believe that every artist is different. I think I have some artist friends who are incredible artists, but they can really kind of like dip in and out of their artistry and
just
their
kind of
work.
turn it on and off?
Yeah, and they sort of have other passions in life where they'll be like, oh, I'm going to do this now, like, see you later or whatever. I don't really have that. Like, I'm very sort of, not to be a total cliche, but it's like I'm really like I'm in it, you know? And it's quite obnoxious, I suppose, in a way, but it really is it's just how I feel. It's like I can't just sort of go home and like unplug and be like a different person, apart from when I'm watching Love Island. I will say, like, that is my one like time where I'm like, oh, like I'm actually off now. I'm not thinking about like fonts or whatever. So thanks for that.
Are we going to get a letterboxed review of Love Island?
I mean, yeah, an essay more like. But no, I would say, like, generally speaking, for me, it's like, is it difficult to have a normal life? I mean, I don't know, like, I love the life that I have. I wouldn't change it for anything else. I feel so grateful and lucky that I get to do the thing that I love, like, every single day. And sometimes that's really volatile and stressful and I'm a nightmare, you know, and sometimes I'm having the best time in the world. But like, I want this. I want to be making things and thinking about creative things all the time, even if that's sort of torture, which sometimes it is, you know. It's sort of like an endless quest for, I don't know, it's like sort of blind and dumb and stuff, but
you're just constantly looking for something, or like you were talking about earlier, the high, the satisfaction
to feel something and to feel honest. And
I guess that's reflected in the transition between I'm Afraid and on the album? Because I'm afraid, as we've been talking about, has that kind of numbish, melancholic feel, and then all of a sudden there's this adrenaline rush in again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you know what's funny? We were talking about this the other day, Alex and Finn and I. Yeah, was actually the hardest song to write on the album, which is funny because there's like 2 lyrics in it. But we actually got in a bit. Well, we kind of got in a fight. Not a fight. Like it was our one sort of like awkward
creative disagreements.
Yeah. I sort of like had a bit of an only child moment and kind of like stropped out of the room and stuff like that, which really doesn't happen to us often ever, actually. But the thing about that song is it's actually it's about like chasing the feeling. We were talking about how when you're making a song and you kind of like crack all of the codes and you piece all the bits of the puzzle together and you're really satisfied with the song that you've made, there is this like rush to it where it's, even if it's actually the worst song ever in the world,
it feels like the greatest.
You're like, oh my God, like it's such a high and it feels incredible. And it's this feeling that like I would love to chase over and over and over again. But sometimes you can be kind of like on the brink of that feeling, you don't quite get it. And then you're like scared to push for it. And there's this funny sort of dance that you do. And actually the song Yeah is about ramping up to like getting that feeling where you're like, I don't want to feel it. I don't think I'm going to feel it. I don't think this is right. I don't think this song is good. And then you crack it and then you're like, and you're like, you know, head out the convertible, like driving at 100 miles an hour and you're like, this is the best. It's like, that is what that song's about.
A song about sort of feeling half-hearted and unsure.
Yeah. And then getting it and being like, oh my God, it was so worth everything. I want to feel this way all the time. That's actually what that song is about.
Well, kind of head out the convertible rush that you feel with Yeah, or maybe any other record that you've released in the past or on this album, is definitely going to be felt at Reading and Leeds, which we're going to be headlining later on this year. I'm so intrigued to hear how this record intertwines with everything else. But then again, thinking about it a little deeper, everything you've ever done has kind of switched and changed and gone in a different direction creatively. So perhaps there isn't so much of a task to put together the perfect set list. It's just to allow the music to run.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some pretty extreme contrasts between the sonic choices on Brat and Wuthering Heights and Music Fashion Film. And actually, like, the way that Music Fashion Film sounds was like a very sort of deliberate response to the way that Brat sounds. They're sort of polar opposites. Particularly in production, you know, even like with the mixing of this record, like AG and Finn mixed this record. It was done in a very, very intentional, almost quite like bizarre way that I feel like some people might be like, what? But to us, it just like really made a lot of sense. And so there's a definite distinction between the two. So yeah, when it comes to putting them together in a set, there is a little bit of bridging to be done, but I think I figured it out. So I am not too stressed, but you can let me know.
Are there any song segues that you're looking forward to the audience experiencing that you've put together?
there's a few. I've been actually working on that right now.
Yeah.
There's like a few cool segues that are going on. Some are very emotional and but then I'm playing like a couple of old songs that I don't know, people probably don't even know them. I just really wanted to play them. So that's going to be fun for me.
Headline slot. You
Yeah,
do what you want.
exactly.
I guess that kind of ties into the next song that we're going to talk about, 2007 in a way, because 2007 kind of takes us back to, I guess, the start in a way, or the kind of early ascendancy in some sense. What were you like back then, and why was that year the kind of poignant year that you pinpointed?
The main reason is because it rhymes with heaven, to be honest. But also it helps that it was also like a big MySpace year, and it was also kind of, I was actually more 2008 when I first started.
But that doesn't rhyme with heaven.
But it doesn't.
No.
So yeah, it was more about like the fact that so that time it's very like MySpace era kind of a time, and I feel like that was like a very, very like DIY era of the internet. You know, everybody had their own sort of like MySpace page. You could like upload your own tracks. Like it felt very raw actually, and I think the song itself is actually about making TikToks. That's what that song is about.
Okay.
Because it's like everybody can be a star from their bedroom, which
Yeah.
which is sort of what I talk about in the song, and it's I think that's fabulous. Like it's so like Warholian in a way, you know, everybody can kind of like have this moment where they blow up on TikTok because they've done a cool dance or a really aesthetically pleasing video or whatever it may be. And I think that's really fun and really creative. So yeah, I guess came at a bad time for the UK, but you know, but
I think I hear what you're saying. I think it's a really exciting time for the new generation, and you know, I think there's this hearing out there. There's this feeling of I can't go out. I can't. It's too expensive to party. I can't go out anywhere. All my venues are closing. How am I going to kind of create my moment and say my piece? And it's coming from people's bedroom in this kind of very minimalist way because they all have access to their laptops now.
Yeah.
But they've all got access to every single piece of music that's ever existed now.
Yeah.
And so you kind of getting your Nina Geraci's or your FCUK's or, you know, whoever it might be, this kind of new generation that are using sort of electronic music, dance floor music in a really quite sort of rebellious and punkish way, which I think sort of felt like what you did with Brat and to a certain extent.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. I mean, I think there's just such a wealth of options out there right now for people to create things, whether that's creating music or whether that's literally making a 15-second TikTok. You know, I think it's fun. There's a lot of tools that you can use, and it's got so broad in a way. And actually, the fact that it's got so broad, the overall sound of music, fashion, film was kind of like us being like, what if we actually restrict it?
Okay.
What if we restrict it so that we don't use all the possible things, you know? Because we can and we have. But now what happens if we put these sort of boundaries in place, and how does that inform our creativity? And actually, I think when you're creating with limitations, you can create something quite specific and unique when you're like, okay, we're only allowed to use this drum machine, we're only allowed to use you know, XYZ. Like that creates a tone in itself,
Intensifies the creativity,
yeah,
I'd imagine.
and because you can only do a certain amount of things with certain things, but if you're like opening up the floodgates to everything, it's, you know, it becomes a bit less potent for me personally in my process.
Completely agree.
That was something that we were exploring with this.
Wink Wink feels very personal and important to you. The video takes you back home to Essex. I recognise those fields very, very well, not far from where I grew up as well.
Yeah.
I wonder kind of what your relationship with that track is, and did you always feel comfortable kind of going home and being around family when you were maybe in every other part of your life trying to make music and do something creative?
I think I've always had a sort of funny relationship with like the past, and I don't necessarily mean like my family. I just think, you know, you grow as a person, like who you are changes, how you think of yourself changes, your own confidence changes. And, you know, I also have like a huge digital footprint. You know, my digital footprint is massive.
People
and
know what's going on.
There, I made some like really like crazy songs and wore some really like insane outfits when I was younger, back when I was living back at home, you know? So it's like, I think there was a point in time where I was like really trying to reject that. And now I actually think it's all quite sweet and cool and sort of messy. It's like a fun journey, you know? But yeah, I mean, Wink Wink, it's sort of like double meaninged in a way. It's kind of like, you know, people are so ready to sort of put you in a box and be like, you're this person for the rest of your life, deal with it. And actually, obviously, being human is so nuanced. Like you know, feel comfortable to show like different elements of your personality to different people. And as an artist, there are some albums that maybe relate more to one side of your personality than to another. And so that's sort of what it's about. And then I think it's also actually about, in a way, like romantic relationships. And in the past, having been maybe like a bit misunderstood by my previous partners and having felt the pressure of wanting to become what they wanted me to be. Whereas now being with George, who I know you play football with.
Yeah.
Like he gets it and he gets me, and it's sort of, you know, it's like a different thing. And so this song in a way is kind of like me sort of talking to my previous partners, being like, yeah, sure, like I'm this perfect person now, wink, wink. Whereas in reality, like, who is perfect? You know, no one.
And I guess perhaps a lot of what you've done in your career, maybe not owed is the wrong word, but the collaborative relationship between you and Alex AG, is he in here? Where is he? No, has he run away?
He's in there.
Oh, he's in there. He's doing tech stuff, isn't he?
Yeah.
But on Magic Metal Montana, that's your kind of ode to him, right?
Yeah. It's totally, it's my song for him, about him. It's my ode to him. Yeah. And I think we've had such a kind of long sort of relationship of working together.
Yeah.
And we've made so many tracks. We've made so much music together. We've gone through so many different phases of life together. We've sort of traveled around the world together and done different types of performances and parties and DJing, and, you know, had all of these different eras of our friendship. But the backbone of that has always been about creating things together. And I think with him and also Sophie, they were the first two people who really, like, I felt that they saw me and I saw them, and I felt like I'd found this thing that I was looking for with them. And you know, over the years that's really blossomed with Alex, and the way that we work together now is we can just kind of sit down and make something in sort of silence and not even have to really communicate too much. We know each other inside out in terms of what we want when it comes to making my music. And my friend Aidan sort of said to me when he heard that track, he was like, oh, wow, it's really emotional, and actually how nice that you have been able to like tell him that.
Yeah.
While you still
you
can.
literally say on the song you couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah, totally. And I feel that. I mean, we've brought so much out of each other. And I think we've sort of changed each other in various different ways. And I feel really grateful for that relationship, because I feel very understood by him as an artist. Yeah.
You say on the song, you like old things like Magic, Metal and Montana. Can we clarify those a little bit? Magic is...
Yeah, well, Magic is a card game.
Or Magic the Gathering?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I don't play, but...
Has AG tried to get you to play Magic?
I think he's like, you would probably get really competitive, but like, don't worry about it.
It's best to stay away from you.
Like, it's more for... Like, there's a group of people in our friend group who play it, and I'm happy for that to just not be my thing.
Fine.
But it's cool that they do it. You know what I mean?
Metal is metal music?
Metal actually is more like metals.
Okay.
Like metals.
Metals, yeah.
Like metal things.
Like like aluminium.
Yeah, like he has
tin foil.
He has a few sort of like metal objects that I kind of think of.
Is he a crow?
Yeah, totally. No, I don't know. It's just like an aesthetic thing of there's some sort of metal thing.
Okay, so he likes metal.
Yeah.
And then Montana, the place?
The place.
Fine.
Yes. Which
Means a lot
he
to him.
spends a lot of time there. Yeah.
Got it. No One Lasts Forever.
Yes.
Oh, what a song.
Thank you.
Really, such an amazing song. I guess first question is, who are you chatting with in the Parisian apartment?
You know, this girl gets a lot of airtime, actually. This was at a party at probably like 6 a.m. We went back to this girl's house. She was a philosopher. I'm not going to reveal the name,
Fine.
but or she studied philosophy, or I don't know. It was blurry, but I
Sure.
remember it was one of
6
those.
a.m.
It was one of those things where we were like, you know, talking about the world and life, and Finn was there as well, and like, you know, it was like we were like in it, and it just felt like a bit of a sort of cherry on the cake of this time that we'd spent in Paris recording, and then we'd had this sort of like bonkers night with this random girl, and I wrote a song about it the next day because it just really felt like a moment in time, and one that probably would not ever be able to be recreated or chased again. And I think that's the way with so many things. It's like you can be in the moment and you can feel that moment, but it's not going to last. And there's something quite beautiful about that.
There's a wonderful speech at the end of that song. I don't think we actually heard it in the live version of the track, but if you listen to the recorded version, there's a wonderful speech at the end. Who is that, and kind of why was it part of the song?
That is David Cronenberg talking, who is one of my favorite film directors. And we had met in Toronto in 2025 around the film festival when I was there. And we just got on really well. We just hung out, and yeah, he's such a obviously incredible person. And I found being in his presence was very calming, and I felt very inspired by him. And he told me this story when we were together in Toronto, which he touches on during the song, where he talks about this incident where he sort of collapsed not so far from his home, and he was talking to me about the things that he was thinking about during that moment. And I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated by whether he thought about his life, whether he thought about his career, whether he thought about his family, people that he loved. And he talks about all the things that he thinks about on the song, and then kind of goes into talking about his thoughts on sort of legacy, I suppose. And I find his take on it to be really, really refreshing in a world where we're kind of on this constant quest to be the best or something, or to better ourselves, or to achieve more and more and more. And actually, it's like, should we not just do the things that make us happy in the moment? Because really, when it all comes down to it at the end, it's like you just have your own memories, and, you know, maybe your work will stand the test of time, but maybe it won't. And you just have to have enjoyed your time and the people that you've made it with, because everything sort of fades to dust really at the end, you know?
To round this off, and you mentioned the word legacy, and that actually wasn't the word I was going to use, but seeing as you've mentioned it, let's go for it. I'm getting the feeling that when you do this, it's for you and you first. But there are a lot of people that look to you, and there are a lot of people that love what you do. You have the opportunity to leave a lasting feeling amongst them. Do you ever consider that? And if so, what do you hope that is? What do you want that legacy to be?
I mean, I really hope that I just inspire people to do things their way. That would be the greatest achievement for me. I don't think the way I've done things is necessarily like the best way or the most, I don't know, perfect way. I've done a lot of crazy random things, you know. but throughout it all, I've been very honest with myself and been honest about the things that make me feel good and don't make me feel good. And I try to have conviction, stand by my ideas, and live my life in the way that I want to, because we're all going to die. So, you know, not to get, but do you know what I mean?
True.
There's also some joy in that. It's like, actually, you know, take the time that you have and use it the way you want to. And I hope that anyone who's sort of into my music or into me can appreciate that that's what I'm doing, and that's my ultimate goal, I suppose, is to creatively fulfill myself. And I hope maybe that they can sort of do that in their own way as well. That would be really cool.
I hope people love this album as much as I did, because I think it stands for all the right things. It's wonderful.
Thank you
Charli,
so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you.